Hey, Coach. Super excited you found us on YouTube in my messy basement. But let me tell you a couple things. First of all, go over and check out teachers.com for coaches who want to get better. That's the first thing. Second thing is make sure you subscribe. Go hit that little bell so every time you come on YouTube, you'll be able to find all of our stuff and subscribe. That is really important.
All right. Welcome to Coach Unplugged. Episode, I don't even know. I looked before I came in. We'll be in like the 1400s, Coach. So, and I'm still married, so you got to be semi-impressed. I've done 1400 podcasts and I'm still married. The pandemic helped with that. The pandemic helped. I ended up, I haven't said this in a while. I was once a week when I started this thing 5-6 years ago. And then the pandemic happened and I revved it up to 7 days a week. It's like, I think I got to go backwards and kind of, and go back to the old time. So Coach Cupps, I was reading we were teasing and talking before we came on about our resumes, and it's like you have a very impressive resume. Let me tell you that first of all. So I'm gonna have you kind of walk us through kind of your basketball journey, kind of where you played. I find it interesting that you I'm not going to go through your resume, but I find it interesting that you graduated from the first school you coached at, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So but then you left it. So that's interesting. I find that interesting. I never even, yeah. Anyway. All right. So go ahead, Coach Cupps. So, introduce yourself, Brooke, and then kind of just walk us through kind of where you grew up, where you played, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I grew up in St. Paris, Ohio. It's a little country, Champaign County, rural area. My dad was a teacher and a baseball coach. My mom was a bus driver. It's kind of around school and, teaching, coaching my whole life. From there, when I graduated from there, I played at Capital University for Damon Goodwin. Played 4 years there. And then my old high school coach, Dave Zeller, who was kind of he was really good. He played with Wayne Embry in high school and then went to Miami of Ohio, was an All-American, played for the Royals for a few years, but that was my high school coach. And I talked Z into coming back for a year after I graduated high school or after I graduated college so I could learn from him because I knew I wanted to coach. And he was like, Brooke, we're going to be terrible. Or no, I don't know if I want to do that, but he did. And then he retired the next year and I got hired as the head coach. Had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I didn't even know how to fill out the scorebook. I mean, I was clueless.
So I have coaches email me all the time about like blah blah blah, and I go, I can walk you through the steps. I will literally walk you through the steps of what to expect. But I mean, until you do your first surgery, you haven't done anything. I mean, you gotta like. I have a friend who's out in California, and he goes, "You told me, Steve." I go, "I told you." It's like I can tell you what's going to happen. But until you do it, it's like, because especially being a head high school coach, it's like the brush fires and the things. Yeah, it's until you experience it, you have to experience it first to really understand all the moving pieces. Yeah.
It's like I hear young coaches say, I'm not sure I'm ready to be a head coach. And they're like, yeah, you're not. You're right. You're not. No one is. But you just got to jump in and you'll figure it out.
Right.
But I went back to Graham and I coached and taught there. I was there for 12 years. It's where I grew up. I went to school there my whole life. What
do you teach?
I taught math for the first 7 years. And then my last 5 years there, I was the athletic director and boys basketball coach. It's a Division II school in Ohio, which means I think we had about 170, 180 kids in a graduating class.
Okay.
So
and give me Ohio. We go 1 to 5, 1 being the biggest, 5 being the smallest. We're 1.
That's what we do. We just have 4 though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 1's the biggest.
Okay.
But really I got there and at Graham, Graham is known for wrestling. We've had incredible wrestling success and they're really, really good. And I had a good relationship with the rest. Actually, our guys started training with the wrestlers a lot because they worked the way and in line with, the level that we wanted to compete at. And so I thought our guys learned a lot from them. I know I learned a lot from Coach Jordan, the wrestling coach at the time.
I'm going to dive into that for a second because I find that intriguing. So when I took over, they'd had like 5 winning seasons, like 35 years. It was horrible. It was a hockey school because we're in Wisconsin. It was a hockey school. So the first person I talked to was the hockey coach. And I still use some of the ideas he gave me because it's like he's won 6 state titles. He obviously and the swim coach was our AD. So I talked to and it was like, I've had coaches ask, well, why would you do that? Because they figured it out. Like, I don't care what sport you win. If you win, you win. Like, so yeah. So they both gave me some stuff that I'm still using to the day. They weren't sport specific, like, obviously hockey's different than basketball, but no, I think people run away from that. Oh, it's a hockey school or it's a wrestling school. Well, okay, there's a reason it is. Why is it? I mean, I would dive into that, like figure out why it is a wrestling school. And then you got to steal the good ideas. Yeah.
Yeah. It's your job to try to figure out how to apply it to you. But there's a difference between winners and not winners and people that are excellent and not excellent. And it's all in their standard that they expect and they accept from themselves. And like, once you're around that and you can put we've tried to put our players around them because their kids were doing that. And so why, like, if that's the level you aspire to achieve and perform at, like, the sport doesn't matter. That's the least important of the whole thing.
Right. It absolutely is. And it's a life thing too. It's like, and again, you'll love this too, because we didn't play last year at all. 0. Didn't play. Wow. So someone that has coached 25 years, I had to basically this year was a reset for me, like literally a reset. And like I had to tell them where the locker rooms were when we went on the road because I hadn't coached any of these. I'm starting a freshman. Anyway, so the first time someone showed up late and I got like, what are you talking? You don't know. And then here's why you don't do that. And here's what's going to happen. It's like, they looked at me like I was from Mars. I swear to God. It's like, but that was the standard. If standard is like, come on, it's like, this is something, this needs to be important. We go by Lambo time. So I don't know if you know about Lambo and the clock. We're Lambo time. Like, and they looked at me like, well, if the meeting starts at 4, you're there at 3:45. Like, you got to be, you're there 15 minutes early. What do you like? No, because things happen. But yes, I think that's a great standard to talk about. Keep going, Coach. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. And then, so I was there for 12 years, and then it really, it's kind of a weird situation, but as the athletic director, I was an administrator, and my kids were getting old enough to where they were doing things, and I was having to decide whether I was going to go to their stuff or I had to cover stuff for school, and felt like I was compromising who I wanted to be. And I didn't feel like I could do both at the level that I was happy with. I was actually just underachieving in both, in my opinion. And so I decided I wanted to coach. And so there were only a few places that I was interested in, coaching. And so Centerville's job happened to come open. They had a good program and had done well, and it was a good school. They had a good mix of kids and good families. And I thought it was a place that I could go coach. And so the job came open, and I was fortunate enough to get it. And I've been at Centerville now for 10 years. I came in teaching math, and now I teach leadership, which has been really cool. Like, kind of started a leadership program or a leadership course that really initiated with team captains of each team. And then that turned into an elective class. And so now I teach that in the morning, and then I supervise selective intervention in the afternoon.
Okay. So that I find that intriguing too, that like I did that. I started teaching math at the school I'm at now, and then it's like no one was teaching statistics. And it's like half of coaching, at least for me, is like looking at the numbers and it's like I'll start the stats class, and now I'm like, that's what I teach. I teach statistics, so it's awesome. It's kind of making your own. So you're a suburb of Dayton, correct? Roughly.
We're on the south end of Dayton, about 45 minutes north of Cincinnati. So we're just on the.
And how far? So I have relatives that live in Columbus.
So we're about an hour and 15 from Columbus.
Oh my God. So I pulled up a map as we're talking. This is the way I do. And literally almost the perfect location as far as competition goes, because you can go
It's
west
great.
to Indianapolis, you can go south to Cincy, you can go east to Columbus, and you can go north to Dayton.
Yeah. Yeah. We have access to some really good teams and good competition. No
And then
question.
how far are you from Louisville and Lexington? A couple hours?
About 2-3 hours. Lexington's about 2.5. Yeah.
Yeah. So so for people around the country, it's like that's what you want. You want to be able to go. I mean, you basically have great basketball players all within 2 hours of like guys that are going to play in the NBA someday. I'm guarantee it. There's guys right now that are 16 years old that live in one of those cities that's going to play in the NBA someday. Guarantee it. Because they're big. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so wow. So I'm gonna pivot here a little bit. So how does your summer look? This is just a question for listeners. What does your summer look? What does your spring summer look like?
Okay, so I mean, I coach an AAU team. My son's going to be a senior. Just finished his junior year of high school.
Okay.
He
You're
plays
busy
on
then.
it. Yeah. So I coach an Adidas AAU team.
Okay.
So I got that kind of through April and May. In June, we had like June in Ohio is like our time. You got those 2 live weekends, but that's when we get to coach our guys. So we've got a ton of stuff in June with camps and all that kind of stuff. And then July, we go back to our Adidas team and and do all that stuff to finish up July.
I give the NCAA credit to do that June thing, because
I do too.
I've always thought AAU. I think they saw what was happening, and I think they tried to grab a piece back, and they did. I think they did a pretty good job of like, okay, well, hold on, let's give at least the high schools June. Because in July, to be honest with you, I don't know about you, but I mean, I still do skill work and stuff, but they're gone. Like, and the funny part is it's like, oh, I'll do stuff on Thursday. Well, what are you talking about? They're already gone. Like, okay, maybe Wednesday or Tuesday we could have an open gym or something, but it's like, and then I like guys that play fall sports or football and stuff. So by August 1, they're already like, so it's like that window of June is like, is interesting. All right, let me dive into some questions for you, Coach. Practice. So if you could only do 3 things at practice, what would you do? I'm walking in and I'm saying, all right, Coach, I'm gonna sit up in stands. You can only do 3 things or work on 3 things. What 3 things do you think are the most important?
Are you talking skills or are you talking just in
I'm
general?
talking about as open-ended a question as I can ask you.
Okay. So we are going to compete. We are going to be unified and communicate with each other, and we are going to show that we are thankful and grateful for being there. Okay. So we would, competition wise, it would be all about, just competing and playing as hard as you can and having positive body language. That's one of our things with our tough core value, and just, competing to win. And then, we would, unified for us is speaking and acting with urgency. So when I talk about, like, I think that one of the biggest, most selfish things you can do is to not hold a teammate accountable, right, for something that that they're supposed to do. So, if a guy is jogging back and you see him jogging back and you don't say anything, you're just picking your comfort over the good of the team. And so, like, that's a huge emphasis for us in practice is the communication piece. And then the last one we count touches in practice a lot. And so we're counting the number of 5s you give, the number of 5s you receive. And, we're going to make sure that we're helping teammates come back to the present moment and compete at the level they're capable of competing at.
Do you track hustle stuff like in practice or games and stuff?
Such as like charges
on the floor, taking charges, things that you and I know are like hustle things, like even crashing the offensive glass in some respects hard is a hustle thing. To rev up, and maybe competition does that in some respects, but
We don't, we have in years past. It's just kind of like what we do now. Like it's like we don't really have to track it anymore. It's just like that. Like if there's a loose ball and you don't dive for it, there's going to be 8 guys yelling at you. It's not going to be me. So
And how did you initially, so that's a standard, a pillar, whatever you want to call it. How did you initiate that when you started? Like that's got to be I'm not going to say a line in the sand you're drawing, but it's something like this is our expectation. How did you build that around the team? Because I think that's a wonderful thing.
yeah, so all of our stuff is based off of our core values. So tough, passionate, unified, and thankful. And each of those have a behavior that goes with them. And so, like diving for a loose ball, we would consider that choosing extra work, right? Or positive body language. So it's either going with tough or passionate. And so one of the things we do early in the season is we just brainstorm, like, okay, what does choosing extra work look like in practice? Is we talk about choosing extra work, or we call it stealing inches sometimes. Like what does that look like in practice? What do you do? And so we just throw all the ideas on the board, and something like going after an offensive rebound every single time, that'll come up as extra work, right? Or not, or stealing inches, because everybody's not doing that. Diving for every loose ball that you can dive for. So that's really where, and then when it happens in practice, like when a guy doesn't dive for a loose ball, or they do, we can stop it and we say, that's passionate. Like that's what passionate, that is passionate.
Give me the 4 pillars again.
Tough, passionate, unified, and thankful.
Okay, so tough, passionate, unified, and what was the last one?
Thankful.
And then, okay, so, and how did you come up with those?
So I mean, you want the long story or the short story?
Give me the middle story, because I'm intrigued, because those seem like, and again, those are a program thing. You came up with them, not the boys or the girls, right, or whoever's on the team. So those are the program thing. So they had to come from somewhere. I just interested, because there's lots of different pillars. I mean, you wrote as one of your people, like Dick Bennett. I mean, there's lots of different pillars. I just wondered how they developed or came about. So they're that important. I think they're wonderful. I mean, I'm jotting them down. I'm gonna steal. We have ours, but I love that. I love that idea.
Yeah. So, I mean, they came from me sucking first. That's how they really initiated, because I was terrible. And I was to a point where I couldn't continue coaching the way I was, just chasing wins. And so I kind of, what I would consider, hit rock bottom coaching wise. And then I actually did, one of the reasons Dick Bennett's one of my influences, because I went to hear him speak at an Athletes in Action clinic, and he's talking about his 5 pillars. And I was like, that's it. Like that, I need to be giving kids more than wins or more than skill or whatever. So how can I contribute to their life beyond that? And so that's kind of where it came from. And I believe these, like the values of our program are my values. Like that, the tough, passionate, unified, thankful, that's who I am. And I don't ask that they have the same ones. I just ask that they respect them. And if they're in our program, our goal is to move them forward in those areas. So, something I'll tell parents is like, if you don't want your son to be tougher, more passionate, more unified, and more thankful, this ain't the program for them. Like, because we're going to help them grow in those areas. Right.
Right.
And so then once I knew those values, I think one of the things, and I've worked with some coaches and some college coaches and some businesses about establishing the behaviors are really the separating factor, because a lot of people have values, a lot of companies have values that they put on their wall, but the culture of your team is how your players act. Like, what does your team do? Like, that's your culture. And so our culture is driven by those behaviors that align with tough. Like for me, tough is positive body language. That's it. Like that, I know I have to leave some other things out, but when I boil it down and I'm talking about tough, my reminder for tough is fight ready. So when I approach a situation, like when I come on this podcast, fight ready. I don't know if I'm going to be the best interview you've ever had, but you're going to get the best that I've got. Like, I'm coming, right? If I'm giving a keynote speech, if I'm going to take a test, if I'm doing a job interview, fight ready. You're getting the best that I've got. And so we ask our guys to do that, like positive body language, bad call, next play, like positive body language, right? We're always addressing that. Like that's a driving force in our program. Passionate is choosing extra work. Like I believe that like everything that you get is what you do outside the ordinary. Everybody practices 2 hours a day. Don't like your practice might be really good, but it's 2 hours a day, right? What are you doing outside of that separates you from anything else, from everybody else? Unified for us is speak and act with urgency, having the willingness and the toughness to call out teammates, to hold people accountable, to show them that you love them by telling them the truth, right? And by being willing to receive the truth and not get defensive about it. And then thankful is show love, get touches, like just show your appreciation for the opportunities that you have, because I don't think we talk about it enough. I don't think we share it enough with the people that really matter to us. And I think it's just a good life lesson.
What do you think the hardest one is to convey?
Speak and act with urgency. Yeah, that's the hardest one. Toughness is just it's so clear. Like positive body language is a really easy one to address.
Trust me, that's super easy. I can show you film of that. Like, look at that.
That's exactly what we do. Yeah,
that's exactly bad. It's the Coach K with Hurley. This is not acceptable. Stop it. That takes care of 97% of them, at least for me. Like that's not. We can't. What are you doing? No. Okay, so I agree. So that one's easy. What are the other three? Why'd you pick that one? Why'd you pick that one being the hardest one, the unified one?
Because of the communication piece, and because that's the last one that really happens for a team. We use Pat Lencioni's the 5 dysfunctions of a team, and the absence of trust is that's the first dysfunction of a team. And like for me to call you out, there has to be a level of trust. For there to be trust, we have to have vulnerability. So that's one that we start building and just get we have a lot of things set up in our program to allow people to be vulnerable safely early, right? How do I give you feedback? Like we'll do debriefs at the end of practice where, give me something that I can do better and something that I did well, and where it's pretty safe, but I'm being honest with you. And then as the season goes on, as we get more and more vulnerable, we build more trust. Now I can call you out on something a little bit harder, and then a little bit harder. And then I can do it.
Then I can do it in front of people too, if I need to, because I got your back. Yeah. I can see that. I can see that being the communication part being. So how do you deal with? Okay, so here's someone that's coached a long time. I feel like that I'm pretty good. How do you deal with the external things? Like dad thinks you don't know, I mean, I'm just talking for the younger coaches out there, because it's like they can maybe build a relationship with the kid, but then the kid's going home and hearing. How do you deal with that aspect of it? And so the unified part is like, I'm telling my special teams, not everyone was on the bus at the beginning, but by the end, everyone was on the bus. The parents were on the bus, grandma was on the bus, the kids were on the bus, and some of them had happened 2 weeks before tournament. Like I finally got them on the bus. How do you do that?
So my focus just always stays on the kid. I mean, I've had a few times when I've had meetings and just told parents to shut up and leave their kids alone. But for the most part, I tell everybody, like, I can win the kid. I can get the kid unified with us, because we'll spend so much time together. He's going to sacrifice and have that shared suffering with his teammates. He wants to do it. I think the only way to really get the parents that aren't willing to just buy in is through the kid. I think the kid has to convert the parents most of the time. The teams that I've had that have been really special, where it's been everybody's.
I agree. The more I think about it, you're right. The kid tells the parent, stop. We got this. I agree. I think that's a great observation, Coach. Because I don't know if you're ever going to get them on the bus 100% from you to them. But when the kid is going home and saying, hey, coaching, we all got this, you know. I know we because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to do it, but we've done a bunch of like trips to Florida, like gotten out of Dodge.
Mhm.
And people say, well, why do you do that? And first of all, total pain in the butt, total pain in
Right.
the butt. But you know what
But
it is? Every time when we come back from those trips, we're better because they're unified, because
Right.
they're spending 24/7 and they're with a roommate that like maybe isn't doing what they're supposed to do. And I tell them it's a I mean, I could go, I guess, to northern Wisconsin, we could do a retreat that way, but it's basically the parents are gone. They're not following us for the most part. And I got them. Like I got them
Right.
for like 5 days. It's me. Like this year, we're going to the Villages. If you know what the Villages is in Florida, it's a bunch of old
Yeah.
people. Like it's the perfect tournament. Trust me. If you
Right.
never go to the Village tournament, great tournament. Because what happens is I take these 15 boys and the managers and the coaches, and we go to the Villages, and it's a bunch of 55 and older people, 200,000. What can they're not going to get any trouble. And it's like, I got them and they're focused. Like, here's what we're doing. We're doing our shoot around. We're doing and it's like, it's basketball with friends. Like, and they maybe don't love each other all this at the same level, but they become, I don't know. It's like living in a dorm, basically. You eventually learn to get along with everybody on your floor. You don't have to love them, but
Right.
you know, you learn to get along. I think that's a great thing. So here's a question. How do you practice plan? You personally, like what does that entail? I think people always are intrigued by coaches that have won a lot, how they practice plan.
Yeah, I can show you that if you want me to bring it up, like a template of what
let me I'm sure let me open this up so you can share, because I'm 100% sure my computer was set up for school and no sharing. Okay, now it's good.
All right, let me oh crap. Now I'm lost here.
That's all right.
Okay. Yeah, you're good.
And I tell, and as you're doing this, I tell coaches too that are listening. Like I've taught for 34 years. Your practice plan is it's your lesson plan. Like you can't just go in. You better have. I mean, I can tell you exactly what I'm doing tomorrow morning at 9:00. Like I got my lesson plan ready. I'm ready to rock and roll. It's got to be the same here. I love that you put so people that are listening and aren't watching I love that on this. I don't think I have one of mine. Mine is like play hard. I had 3 pillars basically when I was starting, but anyway, they're always on the top of my practice plan because I'm old and I forget them half the time. So yes, be tough, be passionate, be unified, be thankful. I love that. Before we go into the practice thing, do you have the subcategories written down? Like what it means to be tough and what it means to be passionate?
They're right here. They're up at the top of it, right under Centerville basketball. Those are our behaviors. Our guys, like we test our guys on those. Our guys have to know them. Like it's
okay. So
like
what do
we're
you mean?
testing
So positive body language.
The body language goes with tough. Choose extra work goes with passionate. Speak and act with urgency goes with unified. Show love goes with thankful.
And show love is like the touches that you're tracking in some parts.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like our guys right now, like before open gyms, we do a test on knowing the core values and the behaviors that go with them, or you got burpees. Like it's not an option. Like you have to know what they are and what they mean. And you know,
and so
we
choosing extra work, do they have to have what you mean by choosing extra work?
So we'll brainstorm that like once we get into the season. But for us, the key to choosing extra work is our breakfast clubs, which is before school every day, like from 6 to 7:15. We work out before school every day, all year, and so that's the big one for our extra work.
And then what about speak and act with urgency? Is like that's like you're not doing what you need to do.
Yeah, and that's the communication piece once you're in practice and live and stuff. Yeah. But as far as practice goes, I mean, I write our practice. I never write a practice plan like 2 days in advance or anything. Like I write it after my practice we practice at 9 o'clock at night or something weird, then I'm writing the practice schedule after that night. I can't bring myself to guess at what we're going to suck at, and that
I go back and forth on that, coach, too. I always, sometimes I need to do it when I come home, but then sometimes I need to like dwell on it and do it next morning. Like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Like, so sometimes I got to sleep on it because I think my brain is working when I'm sleeping. So I don't think there's a right or wrong way for people listening, but I think you should have it. Don't plan out. Like, I have a master thing of when I want to try to get stuff in. Yeah, when I want to get in the like that kind of stuff, because I just want to keep it. But other than that, no, it's a day-to-day thing for me. I agree.
Yeah. But
and
then,
what's the right column? Explain the right column to me.
Over here?
Yeah, where it says
all this
like
stuff,
offense.
right?
Yeah.
So we got our team goal, which we set as a group. So, our core values are mine. The thing that our team owns is our yearly goal. So this year, our goal is always process based. So our goal was to not seek comfort. And so we talked about what that actually looks like and means. Then we just have we always talk about, like 80% of the things gives you, or 20% of the stuff gives you 80% of the return, whatever that theory is.
Right.
So we just talk about, like, we're pretty simple. Like, we're switching man, we run motion. Okay. And so we talk about, offensively, I just think this is how you win games. You take good shots, you rebound, you don't turn the ball over. And defensively, you rebound, you contest shots, you communicate, like, be in the right place.
Pretty simple game. It is a pretty simple game. So I'm going to dive into one question I do have for you.
Yep.
And I'm 100% behind you on switching screens. Why do you do that? Why do you do that?
I think it allows us. Yeah, I think it allows us to stay in gaps and stay in help position better. That's the main reason. I went to it probably 15 years ago now. When I was at Graham, we always had to go through like Dayton City League teams to get out of the district. And it was just, we were straight man, no switch before that. And I thought it negated some of their athleticism by us being able to maintain gap integrity and even on switches. And it's like, you can't run your sets against us. Thus, like, you have to adjust like what you're doing. And we know your switch. We know you're going to try to slip screens. Like, that's what everybody talks about against, like, oh, they're switching, slip it. Well, we know that. So we know we're going to knock your slip down and make him go behind us.
Right.
And so now you're going to have to do something different. What a lot of teams do, and it's hard to guard, is space us and try to drive us, which, it's a good adjustment.
It's a great adjustment. And here's why I think switching works for some of the younger coaches. There's no fog of war. Like, there's no question about, like, that's why I like it. Like, are we hedging? Are we doubling? What are we doing? Because there's 80 billion things to do with a screen. What are you talking about? We're switching. And then they go, well, they'll post up. No, they won't. This is high school basketball. And I've coached some of the best high school basketball players in the country. Are you kidding me? First of all, they can't pass it in there half the time to the guard that's posting up. What are you talking about? And half the time they'll take a bet, whatever. I think it's a perfect, easy thing to implement for young coaches, and it will cause problems. It really will cause problems. Lots of problems. I agree. And so you can tell you're an old dog like me. You don't even have any courts on here. You just know in your head what you're doing, or is that the backside of this?
Sometimes I will put, like, I'll just copy and paste off a fast draw if I'm going to put stuff on there. But so I don't have any courts on it.
So give me a breakdown of practice. Like, if I came and I was a fly on your wall, what would I see for the 2 hours?
You probably, my guys would tell you'd see about 80% defense and about 20% offense. Is what they would tell you. But we usually start with some ball handling, passing, and catching stuff initially. And then we'll jump right into competition. Like, we're going to compete for the majority of it. We do a lot of stuff, especially early on, like whole part whole, where we'll break down our motion stuff, or we'll break down our switches, and then we'll bring it back together as a group. And we'll still do breakdown stations.
We will too.
will
We think we knew. I see on the bottom you have accountability partners. Do you change those weekly?
So we've done it both ways. It kind of depends on our team. Last year we did not. We set them for the year, and we kind of decided we wanted our guys to have a few really deep relationships instead of like surface level relationships with everybody, because they kind of knew each other. We had a lot of guys coming back from the previous year. We had rotated them some. But yeah, our accountability partners are just kind of who they always check in with. If somebody's late for practice, which doesn't really happen with us, and like that's not really an issue, but their accountability partner gets in trouble with them because they were supposed to be keeping track of them and helping them get somewhere if somebody needs a ride or something like that. So
right. Okay. Let's stop the share for a second. I have a couple more questions before we go into. I want to talk about your book and stuff too. What do you think the hardest thing to teach is?
I would say communicating at the level that's necessary to be really, really good.
And so then how do you teach it?
Sometimes I don't do it very well, but what I try to do is just set the standard and hold the standard. I think that's the only way you teach anything, is you establish an expectation and then you don't waver from it.
No, I agree. Is there, all right. So I'm going to pivot away from that for a second. Is there a coaching moment for a listener that they could learn from? I always like, it can be a failure, it can be a success. Is there one moment? Because I think we all that have done this long enough have probably a handful of them, but is there a moment that we could kind of dive into that you think would be a good teachable moment for a coach listening to this?
I don't know. The first moment that comes to mind is like when I decided to go from just coaching for wins to coaching through values. Is like we were pretty good at Graham one year. We were like 18-2. We beat a team by 40 in the last game of the regular season. Then they beat us the second round. And I was like, "Ooh, it's got to be about something more than this." Because
it does. Well, going back to mentor coaches, and my brother said this to me. I think he goes, "If you're only happy if you win the last game of the season, Steve, you're not going to be very happy for the next 20 years." And
yeah.
And it's true, because like in our state, there's 5 happy coaches, and on the boys' side, there's 5. They won their last game. Everyone else lost their last game. So it's like, and when he said that, it was like, that was like another aha. It's like, yeah, okay. You feel really happy when you do win that last one, but I get it. There's definitely something to be shown on that. So I got to ask. So how did the book come about, and how long did it take you to write it?
So I kind of had the idea of it for a while, of like, because it's written as a fictional book, but it's really kind of my journey from how I started out viewing coaching to how I view it now. So it's,
give the listeners a Spark Note version. Give them a Spark Note version of it. It's called Surrender the Outcome, by Brook Cupps. So, I'll put a link down below. So if you're jogging, mowing the lawn, run in the car, whatever, people always listen to podcasts at different spots. I'll put a link down below so you don't have to worry about it, but just give them a synopsis of what it is.
It's basically a young basketball coach that starts out coaching to try to appease and for his ego and try to win games and raise his status among other coaches, which I think is where a lot of us start out at. I was deep into it. I just all about comparison, and if I won, I was better than you. If you won, then you're better than me, and I wouldn't sleep. And to kind of an awakening where some stuff with his family where, he wasn't being the father that he wanted to be. And then, went into some deep self-reflection with the help of some people close to him to kind of establish some core values that led to the behaviors that he, tried to start coaching with. And then, goes into, him coaching and leading with those values. And then at the end of the book is almost like a kind of like a self-help of how you can go through and find your values and your behaviors that, could help you on that same path.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I didn't know that. Okay, so here's the question. Is it an audiobook too?
It's not yet. No, I've had a few people ask me. I have not created that yet.
All right, you need to do that. First of all, I'm going to tell you why, because I was listening to an Audible book today when I was listening. Here's why, because you and we're both still trying to run program. It's a lot easier for me to do two things at once. Is what I'm telling you. Like, to sit down and read a book is a wonderful thing, and I will do that this summer. I've got a couple on my thing, but I got to sit down and read the book. Like, I got to take time to, but I can listen to the book and mow the lawn and, clean the garage out and go to the grocery store, whatever. So think about that, because it would be it'd be fun to you could hire somebody to do it, but it'd be fun to actually do it yourself. Probably it'd be a chore. I bet. How many pages is it?
I don't know. It's
how thick? Is it an inch? Is it half an
it's
inch?
like I got one right here. It's like,
all right, let's see how thick it is. I can probably guess. Well, that's not. Ooh, that would be a haul.
It's pretty good. It's like 200 pages. It's like,
oh yeah, that'd be a read, coach.
Yeah.
Give me the. I have not heard Culture Code. I've heard and read. Great book. Give me the other two, the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team and the Inside Out Coaching. Tell me about those 2 books.
So the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team is Pat Lencioni. It's written as a business fable. I use that book. I've used that book for probably 10 years with our team, and I use it in one of my leadership classes. But it basically just takes, it talks about, lack of, I might forget them now. Like, it's absence of trust, lack of commitment, lack of accountability. Then inattention to results is the last one, but it goes through the 5 dysfunctions. And I personally think it is the best model for team development that I've seen. There's a lot of those leadership authors that give you all these theories, but what I think Pat does in that is he like lays it out and says, like, okay, so like for us, like, I'm very intentional early in our season of developing trust, like, because that's the foundation of where everything else is. If you have trust, then you can hold guys accountable. Then you can have.
Do you think you can do? See, I've always found that I can build a lot of the trust in the summer.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. I'm just wondering if you like. We all know probably 80% of our team is coming back. There's 10%, 20% that who knows? Who depends on who puts the work in and blah blah blah. But we all probably know who our top 7 are. So
yeah.
It was one of the things I noticed with COVID is I lost that. It took me to the post. I mean, we struggled until Christmas, and then we won like 9 out of our last 10 or 10 out of our last something. We were really good after, because they didn't know me. They didn't know who is this guy? Like, what are you doing? Now they kind of know me and my dad Joe. I mean, they just know who I am, so they trust me more. I'm just for the younger coaches listening, I think you can build. I find there's not as much. I don't know what the word is. There's not as much authoritarian things from. I mean, it's like there's not an X plus Y equals Z kind of thing in the summer. It's like we're playing summer ball, and I get it, and the expectations are, but it's different. It's like they're not playing in front of 2,000 people. Like, there's a different thing there that I don't want to say it's more lax, because it's not more relaxed, but there's something different. Yeah.
I agree with that. And usually, I mean, aside from your COVID year, like, you're usually starting with a bank account, with a trust bank account already established to some level with most of your guys. And so you're building on that.
Yeah. I love that. And now I love that idea. Like, you're right. and some of them the bank is a bit more full than the other ones. Like,
Right.
yeah, there's, yeah. Um, and then, and when you get 5 or 6 of them and they're all the trust, oh my God, it's so much fun. It's so much
Yeah.
fun. It's the ones that are like texting me now, like whatever. One of them's
Right.
going to be one of them is just graduated from UW. Is probably, I mean, he'll be a top 4 or 5 round NFL draft pick, and he was good. He was good. He was good. He wasn't a D1 basketball player, which we had on that team. He was a good football. Oh my God, he'd run through because he trusted me. Like I helped him in math class. He knew he's like he trusts me, and he would have run through that wall for me. Like that, he wanted to win more than anybody. That's the but I built that bank up over like, I mean, Jake, if you're listening, I got you through algebra 3 or pre-calc single-handedly. That's probably why the trust was there. It's one of my better movements was getting you through pre-calculus. So I'm going to pat myself on the back. If you're listening to this, Jake, I don't think you are. All right. What about inside out coaching?
So that's by Joe Ehrman, and he just talks about basically like the core value types, like leading from some place other than kind of society's definition of success. He talks about 4 big questions, like why do you coach the way you do? Or first of all, why do you coach? Why do you coach the way you do? How does it feel to be coached by you? Which is a great question. And then how do you how do you
And I tell
define
every one of my
success?
youth coaches, you better not be that kid's last coach. And they go, what do you mean? I go, well, because how you make that 6th grader feel is whether they're going to play in 7th grade. Now, whether they're good enough to ever play for me is a different story. You should not, by choice, you should not be their last coach. So it's like, you're not Calipari, you're not coaching Kentucky. Relax. 6th grade basketball. It will be okay. No one remembers their record. Well, some people do remember their records from 6th grade. That's the problem. That's the problem. All right. So tell me about your blog and I went on I'm going to steal some of your stuff from your basketball, your Centerville basketball.com website. I love that you put those drills up there. That was great. I got to do that for my youth. I love that.
That's how I started. I did it for our youth program, and then it kind of grew from there. I need to actually update it and add some more. I haven't added anything for a few years, but
I know it's like we get a little busy, don't we? We do. But tell me about your blog, that leadership development blog. That's intriguing. I'm going to be honest, haven't looked at that yet, but tell me about that one.
Yeah, it was kind of, so Ryan Hawk does a podcast around here. He does the Learning Leader Show. It's kind of, it's a one of the more well-known leadership podcasts, but I'm pretty good friends with Ryan, and he prodded me to kind of do something. And so it's been more than anything. When I first started doing it, it was really just like a chance for me to write. I think I used to view writing as just hating it, but what it's become now, it's become a way for me to clarify my thoughts, and really, because when you write it down, you have to think of exactly what you want to say.
Right.
And so it's been as good of a exercise for me. I mean, I don't know if anybody reads them. I don't really follow, all that stuff, but it allows me to just like whatever's on my mind, whatever I think coaching wise or leading wise. Sometimes somebody will say something to me, I'll be like, I want to write about that. And so it's just random topics on, I mean, we're all doing the same thing: leadership, coaching, teaching. It's all the same. Stuff.
And it's part of it's therapeutic. It's like, why did I start the podcast? Because I want to talk to other coaches like you. Because I'm telling you right now, I took 2 or 3 golden nuggets from this that I'm going to use that's the thing, is like, we all do it in different ways. Again, a math person, me writing, my master's thesis was the last thing I wrote. Swear to God, like it isn't, but it was like, once that 123 pages was done, I'm done. I told my wife, I'm never writing again, ever again. It's horrible. But anyway, all right. So let me do my rapid fire, because I love doing this. Because I want to, I don't want to keep you too long here. All right. What is your favorite brand of basketball, the actual ball you play with?
We play with the Rawlings in Ohio. I like Wilson the best.
Okay. One word to describe your ideal player.
tough.
If you go to one sporting event in the world, what would it be?
That's a good question. I mean, I'll just go to the Ohio State Championship game.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I want to go to the Masters at some point. I'm not even that big a golfer, but I think it would be fun. Final Four, you've been to Final Four before?
I have not. No, I thought about saying that. I have not.
Yeah,
been to
Final Fours
Four.
are good. You take your son. Take your son.
Yeah.
I was going to take my son. I took him to Minneapolis when Virginia won it. It was great. I was not going to take a 20-year-old to New Orleans this year. No way. But it's fun. It's one of those things you just got to see. It's like, wow, like crazy. And everyone loves basketball that's there. You don't go to the Final Four unless you love basketball. What's your favorite pregame or postgame meal?
Pre-game, I don't usually eat very much. Post-game, we typically go to the Submarine House, which is a little restaurant here close to us. My wife and usually one of our assistant coaches will go there. We'll kind of start watching film a little bit and kind of decompress. And I usually get chicken tacos and some teasers, which are like little cheesy bite things that you dip in cheese or ranch.
Ooh, that sounds really good.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we have a Chick-fil-A across the street from our school, so it closes at 10. So sometimes I have to tell the officials to stop blowing the whistle. I got to get the Chick-fil-A, man. So it's the only time I treat myself. Stop blowing the whistle. What does your game day look like as a teacher? Like, what is your like from the beginning of the morning until, like you already said post game, but what does your game day look like?
I mean, I get up at 4:30 every day. I go in and I work.
You get up at 4. What time do you go to? Like, I'm keeping you past your bedtime. I'm sorry.
No, this is about when I go to bed. I'll go to bed after we're done. But yeah, like I get up at 4:30. I go work out. I usually meditate and stuff in the morning. Our guys come in for breakfast club, so I just kind of rebound for somebody or watch film. If it's a game day, I might just sit on the baseline and watch film. And then a normal day of teaching, and then after school, I might try to sneak a nap in after school, which is unusual. I don't take naps very often, but I usually on game days, I'll try to get a 20-minute nap in.
That's go back. Coach K is convinced that's the best thing you can do. And he says, why? Because when you wake up in the morning, you're the most alert. That's why he tries to take a nap every game day. So I've used that with my wife. If nothing else, it helps a little bit. What's one thing you do to relax?
Probably, I mean, I like to read. I would say I like to be outside. If I was really stressed, I would probably just like go for a walk in the woods or just be outside.
Okay. Do you have any superstitions?
I mean, yeah, probably a lot of them that I don't even know are superstitions anymore. Like I don't wash my coaching clothes if we haven't lost. So like as long as we win, I don't wash any of my coaching clothes. I mean, I got the same routine, same prayer I say during the national anthem and stuff like that, but
yeah, I mean, I tell people superstitions are rituals. They're not like, I don't think if I miss one, we're going to lose. It's more like it's like, yeah, a lot of, I think I might change it because I don't wear a tie anymore, but I wear a jacket, dress up. And that's more kind of me getting ready for game. It's like my uniform kind of thing.
Right.
I've thought about maybe changing that up a little bit, but one coaching technique that you think's important.
Man, I wrote something down for that, and I don't remember what I wrote down now because that was an interesting question to me. A coaching technique.
You wrote tying. I'll help you. You wrote tying core values in behavior and practice, games, and locker room.
Yeah. So I mean, the first thing I wrote down was like I really believe in coaching in short bursts. I hate lectures in practice. Like I cannot stand it.
You know what I refer
Just
to it as? Well, first of all, it's like machine gun practices is what I refer to it. So it's not probably as PC anymore, but it's like we live in a TikTok world where their attention span's like 15 seconds. So
yeah, that's
if you, I mean, when I started coaching 30 years ago, I could have sat there for 20 minutes and they'd have had all been listening. Like I was like, now it's like 30. I got them for like 30 seconds. Here you go. And then boom, boom, boom. Yeah,
right,
I agree.
right.
I think it's a generational thing, I think. All right. Describe your perfect player in 5 words or less. This always causes problems with people too. You can use less than 5. You can use 1 word, but 5 or less. The perfect player.
Man, that's a tough one. So I would just go with, I think,
You could use your 4 things. That would be,
yeah, that's probably where I would go. And then I would probably add, I don't know. I would probably just say tough, passionate, unified, and thankful. I think that's gonna, like, if they're passionate, they're gonna work. And
I
they're
would,
gonna be
having talked to you for an hour, resilience would probably be one that I would add. The great ones, they're usually as an obstacle that they overcome. They're resilient. There's something there.
Yeah, I think something that I value is like I view myself as kind of an underdog, and I like guys that have a chip on their shoulder, have something to prove. Like I like those guys.
Yes, I'm telling you, it's something. You know what it is sometimes too. It's like I've noticed it with my smaller guards, like
Yeah,
my 5'9". There's just I've got one on my team now. I've got a couple on my team now. I've had some in the past. I had one on my 2005 state championship team. There's just like it's like a chip. It's like I know I'm 5'9", but I can hoop. Like I know it.
yeah,
I know I'm 5'9",
yeah.
but I can still hoop. So, it's
Right.
like best basketball player you have seen in person.
I mean, my son played with Bronny James, and so I've seen LeBron. I mean, he's pretty good.
He is pretty good. All right.
He would
I won't
come to
ask you the best
practices.
player of all time then. I won't ask you that. If you could only teach one skill, what would that skill be?
Communication.
Okay. Shot clock, yes or no?
Yes.
If you could change one thing about the game, what would you change?
I mean, I wish people would pass the ball more.
Ooh,
Like,
I
I don't
like
know if
that.
that's
No one has said that. I want to make the court. I want to make the court wider. I'd probably also move up the rim about a half an inch or 6 inches at some point. That's gonna have to. I mean, I think the bodies are getting, at least at my level, the bodies are getting so big in a high school court. It's like we just need a little bit more space. It's not 30 years ago, even, or 50 years ago. I just think, and if you go to an NBA game, holy crud, the court's definitely not wide enough. Like,
yeah.
the bodies are
Yeah.
just getting so big. So I don't know. Charge circle, yes or no?
Charge circle. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Best game you've seen in person.
I don't know. I would probably go with like our regional final game when we won the state a couple years ago. It was a great game against Moeller.
We played Moeller. I think
was-
we've beaten Moeller. I think we've beaten Moeller before. We beat Moeller in a tournament, I think. At some point.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar. They got a really good program. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite quote. You listed 3. Can you pick one of the 3?
I don't know. Those are all things that are in our program.
All right. I'm going
I
to read
would
all 3 of
probably-
them. The toughest team wins. Do not seek comfort. Drink the water, but remember who dug the well. Love
Yeah.
that one.
So
Love
yeah,
that.
so the drink the water, but remember who dug the well is kind of our thankful thing. Like just remembering the opportunity. You're where you are because of someone else, and so recognizing and paying the respect that's due.
All right, quarters or halves?
I think I would prefer halves, but I don't really care.
You play quarters?
We play quarters.
Yeah, we have halves.
Do you? Do you like it?
Two 18-minute halves. The only thing I miss is the teaching between quarters.
Yeah.
So I've been fighting to try to get an extra timeout. Lose it. I said, say they all know what it is. If you don't use it, you lose it. Like, if I don't need it, I won't use it. But that's the only thing I miss. Definitely makes you play more kids.
Yeah.
It's like almost like a college game. Your best player has to get a rest in the first half. They can't play 36 minutes hard. And the kids look at me like, watch a college game. The best players don't play 40 minutes, guys. You cannot play hard for 40 minutes. I have to give you a rest. Like, so there's a little bit more chess, but it definitely helps the flow a lot.
Yeah.
And it's an extra 4 minutes, so it's like it's good because I get to play more. I get to play more kids. One word to describe your coaching style.
I would say passionate.
Okay. Best basketball coach of all time. Always the hardest question I ask because there's like 50 to jump in your head probably.
I mean, I think Wooden is the best basketball coach of all time. I would like to say, like I was a big Knight fan when he was coaching, of not of his tactics, but of the quality of play that his teams played with. I had such admiration.
He was a good teacher. I'm not sure I would have wanted to I'm not sure how he knew the game. Let's say that he knew how to teach and break the game into small pieces, which is part of teaching. Jump ball, yes or no?
Sure.
Okay. I'm gonna get on my soapbox. I haven't for a couple months. I think the jump ball is stupid, and that we shouldn't start the game with a jump ball because the officials can't throw the ball up. They don't practice it. They don't practice it. It's literally one of the things I want changed. Give it to the visiting team should get the ball to start the game, and then we do alternating possession. Done. Like,
that's fine.
Again, the accountant has there's three. We have three officials. There's three officials. One of them throws up the ball once a game. They are horrible at throwing the ball up. They don't practice.
I've never thought about it. I don't. Yeah, I mean, there are times we got such a small guy, we just don't even jump. We just go ahead.
I had a guy get called for a foul a couple of years ago on a jump ball. I go, I've never seen that. Like, what are you talking? He fouled them? So I just think it needs to go away. All right. The last question I always ask every one of my interviews is, what would you tell your younger self? What would be your parting words to your younger self 20 years ago, 30 years ago?
Yeah, it would be figure out who you are and what you believe and coach through that.
Awesome. I think that's a great way to end, Coach. Thank you very much. I appreciate you being on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Hey, Coach, so glad you enjoyed the video. Make sure you subscribe and like. Second all, go check teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. Let me help you put banners and stuff in your gym and become a nationally ranked coach, win more games in less time. Teachhoops.com is a community that will allow you to do that. Go over and check it out, and go check the next video out. Bye.